Oh man, so I have a very well-timed video for everybody this week because I'm actually experiencing this exact thing that we're about to go over for a minute. But before we start down that road, let me ask you something. Have you ever accomplished anything significant and you immediately start explaining it away like it's luck or you don't deserve it or you know the right people or something like that? Maybe you earned a promotion or launched a business or you graduated from high school or college, or even like me, you recently published a book. I'm experiencing that right now. Just published a book. By the way, the link for the book is in the description. And I still find myself asking, man, is this good enough? Should it be out there for people to read? And I start to minimize this accomplishment that is so very important to me, and it has been for a long, long time. Well, the thing that you're going through, or that you have gone through, and the thing that I'm going through, is actually there's a technical term for it. It's actually referred to as imposter syndrome. So that's what we're going to talk about for a little bit. Imposter syndrome has a technical definition. It's a psychological experience where you persistently doubt your skills, talents, or accomplishments and fear being exposed as a fraud. That's the strange thing about imposter syndrome, is that it shows up uh, after success, and very rarely before. You work years towards this goal, you earn the opportunity, you prove yourself repeatedly, and then when the moment finally arrives and you've got this thing that you achieved, like it was the promotion, the book, the whatever, the college degree, and your mind starts actually building a case against you, not because you lack evidence, but because you refuse to accept the evidence right there in front of you. If you've ever felt this way, you are far from alone. Research suggests that roughly 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. 70%, that's a lot of people experience this at some point. That means the feeling itself is incredibly common. The problem is that when you're experiencing it, it's so deeply personal. It feels like you're the only one secretly worried about being exposed, right? One of the biggest misconceptions about imposter syndrome is that it only affects inexperienced people, and that's not true. In fact, research tells a completely different story. Imposter syndrome will appear very commonly in high achievers, leaders, entrepreneurs, executives, professionals, so on and so forth, who have already demonstrated their competence repeatedly in their given industries. Think about that for a moment. The people most likely to doubt themselves are often the people who have actually earned their success. But why? Why does that kind of make sense? Because the higher you climb, the more visible your imperfections become to other people, and we know that. And you begin comparing your behind the scenes reality to other people's highlight reel, which we've talked about in the past. You know your doubts, you know your mistakes, you know your fears, but you only see everyone else's accomplishments. And that creates a very dangerous illusion in your own head, the illusion that everyone else belongs to this achievement club except you. And I think it's especially true when we're stepping into some sort of a new identity, whether that's a new leader, entrepreneur, coach, author, right? The mind keeps looking backward. It remembers who you used to be, and but your life is really asking you to step into what you're becoming, not what you used to be. And that gap creates real discomfort. One of the reasons imposter syndrome becomes so exhausting is because it creates an impossible standard. Every accomplishment that you have, it gets discounted. Every compliment gets deflected, which I've seen that in a lot of people. You tell yourself, hey, I got lucky. The timing was right. Anybody could have done this. It's not that big of a deal. I just happen to know the right people, so on and so forth. Eventually, you become so good at minimizing your success that no amount of achievement feels sufficient. That's why imposter syndrome isn't really a confidence problem. It's a self-recognition problem. In fact, research has found that imposter syndrome is associated with burnout, anxiety, reduced job satisfaction, and emotional exhaustion, because when you're constantly fighting, or excuse me, arguing against your own accomplishments, you're fighting a battle that you just can't win. Imagine carrying a backpack, and every accomplishment you remove a stone from that backpack and show it to people and display it, and it's no longer in your backpack. But with imposter syndrome, it's actually the opposite. Every accomplishment adds a stone to your backpack, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. More expectations has more pressure, more fear of being exposed, that I don't actually belong in this achievement club. And that's exhausting. And eventually the weight becomes heavier than the achievement itself. And then we end up spiraling into this place of, I don't know if I even want to achieve because I don't know if I'm worthy of the success that will come with that achievement. So, all that said, what do we do? Well, first, we stop waiting for confidence to arrive before acknowledging our truth and our growth. Confidence isn't built by denying evidence, it's built by accepting it. So, ask yourself this first question. What evidence of my accomplishment have you been refusing to acknowledge? Second, we challenge the stories that we've been repeating. Here are some of those stories. Not every thought deserves a belief. Not every insecurity deserves authority. And not every feeling represents truth. So the question then becomes, secondly, what accomplishment am I minimizing right now? Third, and final, we have to learn to give ourselves the same credit we would give someone else. So because here's a question I want you to really sit with and think about if you feel yourself grappling with these feelings. If someone else accomplished everything you've accomplished, what would you say about them? Would you say they're lucky? Would you say it's because they know this person? Would you say it's because they cheated their way through the system? Or would you recognize their effort, resilience, growth, and persistence? Which one? I suspect the answer would be pretty revealing to you because we tend to offer others the grace that we refuse to give ourselves. This week, I want to challenge you to write down 3 accomplishments that you've been minimizing. Just 3. 3 things you've worked hard to achieve. And that when you write them down, don't explain them away. No asterisk, don't attach luck, don't qualify them, simply acknowledge them. Not because you're perfect, not because you've arrived at this big end point of self-actualization, but because growth requires honesty. And honesty includes recognizing your strengths as much as your shortcomings. You don't have to believe you're extraordinary. You simply have to stop pretending that your accomplishments don't count. So by now, you should see the email that you can contact me to ask for coaching topics or tips or reach out for some personalized coaching yourself. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And the link for the description of my new book, The End of Our Stay, is in the description of this video, as long as all of my references are all right there. So go out there and try to have as good a day as you can.